northeastern part of India lies a state with great valleys, high mountains, deep gorges and rich flora and fauna. This is the vibrant hill state of Nagaland. Start your Nagaland.
स्वागत है आप सभी का हमारे इस खास कार्यक्रम में। और आज इस कार्यक्रम में हम बात करेंगे किस तरीके से दुनिया की जो पर्यावरण संतुलन को लेकर जो समस्याएं चल रही हैं उसके निदान के लिए जो भारत में एक सम्मेलन की शुरुआत हुई है। COP14 के सम्मेलन की शुरुआत ग्रेटर नोएडा में हो चुकी है, जिसमें अब से कुछ देर बाद प्लेनरी सेशन की भी शुरुआत होने जा रही है। ये बेहद महत्वपूर्ण है किस तरीके से दुनिया में जो मरुस्थलीकरण की समस्या हो रही, जिससे ज़मीन बंजर हो जाती है, उसको रोकने की जो कोशिश है, जिससे उसको इस्तेमाल करने लायक बनाया जा सके और दुनिया में जो खेती योग्य जमीन है उसको बढ़ाया जा सके। ये अपने आप में एक बहुत गंभीर समस्या के तरीके से, और इसके समाधान के लिए किस प्रकार से निष्कर्ष निकल सकता है, इसको लेकर अगले 12 दिनों तक एक सम्मेलन चलेगा, जिसकी शुरुआत आज हो चुकी है।
Yes, this is on a part of a globally significant pledge that all these countries, 196 countries are participating in COP14, which India is hosting for the first time, and this is an event of global significance where the kind of commitments that will be made will be a key determinant of all our collective future, because a lot of our future depends on land which is being degraded at an alarming speed at the moment, and even the land that is left, nearly 30% of the world's land is already degraded, and even the rest of the land that is left, it is no longer in its natural state. So the commitment, for instance, what India has committed is that in the next 10 years, it will re-energize or revitalize land which has been degraded to the extent of 50 lakh hectares. 50 lakh hectares is the commitment that India has made. Similar commitments have been made by other countries as well, because this is a huge challenge. A lot of resources, a lot of time will need to be devoted to this, and strategies will have to be adopted that perhaps need tweaking from time to time as well, which is why this particular conference is taking place. Over 3,000 international delegations, like I said, 196 countries, at least 80 environment ministers are here in the national capital, and devoting a lot of time to this exercise. It starts today, it's already started, and it's going to go on till the 13th of September. Now, what's happened already is that Union Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar has flagged off the 14th meeting of the Conference of Parties to the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. That's the UNCCD COP14. Now, inaugurating that conference, Union Minister Prakash Javadekar said good outcomes are expected out of COP14, considering massive participation. He also said that if we take mitigation action on climate change, the world will be a better place. He also said that good outcomes from the COP14 were expected, because a lot of action that will take place will unfold from there. Around 196 countries and 94 environment ministers. So that figure that I mentioned above 80, it's actually 94 are taking part in this mega event.
जमीन और बढ़ती बंजर जमीन ये एक समस्या है, और बंजर जमीन ज़्यादा पानी के उपयोग से भी होती है, कम पानी से भी होती है, ज़मीन खिसक जाती है, बह जाती है, उसके कारण भी होती है। उसके साथ साथ डिफॉरेस्टेशन से भी होता है, और बहुत सारे मुद्दे हैं जिसके कारण ज़मीन बंजर होती है। अब बंजर ज़मीन को फिर से फर्टाइल बनाना, उसको फसल ले सकने जैसा बनाना, ये बहुत ज़रूरी है, संभव है। विज्ञान ने, तकनीक ने और मनुष्यों की प्रतिभा ने ये संभव किया है।
And COP14, that's the Conference of Parties, the 14th one, is going to go on till the 13th of September, during which ministers are expected to announce their targets for land restoration, and they're also expected to agree upon measures to address the related emerging threats of forced migration, sand and dust storms, and on actions to strengthen resilience to droughts.
सभी देशों में बंजर जमीन कम होने से रोजगार पर भी अच्छा परिणाम होता है, जीवन यापन भी होता है, शहर की ओर माइग्रेशन रुकता है और उसके साथ साथ कार्बन एमिशन जो हमारे बड़ी समस्या है उसमें भी सुधार आता है। जैसे भारत ने 25,000 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर ट्री कवर पिछले 5 साल में बढ़ाया है, तो ये ऐसे अनेक काम किए जा सकते हैं जिससे लैंड रिस्टोर होती है, वो फॉरेस्ट में भी और आउट ऑफ फॉरेस्ट ऑल्सो। और इसलिए ये कॉप सम्मेलन बहुत उपयोगी होगा।
Now, UNCCD Executive Secretary Ibrahim Theo has also said that this conference is going to be the largest ever with nearly 8,000 registered participants. He said that this is the largest ever COP organized by the UNCCD. He also said that it's extremely important to keep feeding the world, but what to do to keep doing so. Unfortunately, we have degraded 25% of land globally, which is unusable. Using human intelligence and technology, we must restore this degraded land.
We are very fortunate to be here in India. You have seen by yourselves the conditions that we have been provided for to work in. This is undoubtedly going to be the largest COP ever organized by the UNCCD. As of this morning, we have more than 7,300 participants registered. I think we will beat the 8,000. As the minister said, we have a long list of ministers from around the world that are confirmed to the high-level segment next week. And we also have a long list of leaders from the United Nations participating, including the number 2 of the United Nations, Deputy Secretary General, as well as heads of other UN agencies and non-UN agencies.
गौतम, जब ये प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई थी तो मैं सुन रहा था, इसमें एक बात बहुत साफ तौर पे प्रकाश जावड़ेकर जी ने कही, वो ये कहा कि ये जो ज़मीन की समस्या है, मरुस्थलीकरण की जो समस्या है, ये लोकल समस्या है, इसका समाधान भी लोकल स्तर से निकलना चाहिए कि आखिर उस पर्टिकुलर इलाके की जो समस्या है उसका निदान कैसे हो सकता है, लेकिन उसके लिए ग्लोबल लेवल पे एक तरीके से सबका समर्थन चाहिए। भले समस्या लोकल लेवल पे हो, समाधान लोकल लेवल पे सूझा जाए, लेकिन उसको समर्थन ग्लोबल लेवल पे होने की जरूरत है। तो ये अपने आप में बेहद महत्वपूर्ण है। हमारे सहयोगी तापस भट्टाचार्य भी हमारे साथ में जुड़ गए हैं, जो इस पूरी कॉन्फ्रेंस को कवर करने के लिए इस वक्त ग्रेटर नोएडा में ही मौजूद है। तपस, अगर देखा जाए तो अभी तक का जो सेशन रहा है और अब अगला जो सेशन शुरू होने जा रहा है, क्या महत्वपूर्ण चीजें डिस्कस होने वाली हैं? अब
वो जो प्लेनरी सेशन शुरू होने वाला है, प्लेनरी सेशन का काम यह है कि जितने भी इनफॉर्मल मीटिंग, जितने भी मिनिस्टर्स, एनवायरमेंट मिनिस्टर्स हैं कंट्रीज के, एक 196 कंट्रीज के यहाँ पे लोग आए हैं, सिविल सोसाइटी से लोग आए हैं, साइंटिस्ट आए हैं, तो जितने भी अलग अलग जगह से अलग अलग अप्रोच को यहाँ पे जो करने के लिए आए हैं यहाँ पे लोग, ये सारे मिलके एक आइडिया ये है कि एक ऐसा एक उपाय खोजा जाए जिससे डेवलपमेंट और सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट की जो बात हम बार बार किए कर रहे हैं कि ये बहुत जरूरी है, क्योंकि अंधाधुन जो डेवलपमेंट है, जिस तरीके से बढ़ रही है, प्रगति कर रहे, प्रगति की होड़ है, वो एक तरह से कम होनी चाहिए। और इसके बारे में ये जो सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट के गोल्स है और जिसपे डिग्रेडेशन, लैंड डिग्रेडेशन और लैंड डेजर्टिफिकेशन का जो मामला है, उस पे जो ये जितने भी लोग हैं वो इस वक्त प्लेनरी सेशन में बैठ के इसके बाद बात करेंगे। एक इनफॉर्मल मीटिंग का नाम दिया गया क्योंकि ये इनफॉर्मल मीटिंग करीब 9 तारीख तक चलेगी, जब उसके बाद ही हाई पावर्ड जो फॉर्मल मीटिंग्स हैं मिनिस्टर्स, स्टेट ऑफ द लीडर्स जो वो लोग उनके बीच में होगा। तो अब इससे पहले जो एक तरह से खाका बनाना होता है, एक तरह से एक नींव रखी जाती है कि क्या होना है, उसके बाद वो रखा जाएगा, और जिसके लिए इस वक्त बातचीत चल रही है। और एक के बाद एक प्लेनरी सेशन आज से शुरू होगा। आज से शुरू होने के बाद ये करीब 9 तारीख तक ये कंटिन्यूस चलेगा। एक इनफॉर्मल मीटिंग का दौर जिसे कहा जा रहा है वो चलता रहेगा, जिसके बाद एक तरह से एक वो रखा जाएगा कि हाँ, इन बातों को मद्देनजर रखते हुए दिल्ली डिक्लेरेशन का नाम दिया जाएगा, दिल्ली डिक्लेरेशन किया जाएगा।
तापस, before the proceedings go into the main session, that is about to begin, just tell us in terms of this entire issue tackling land degradation, this UNCCD, this is going to be COP14. It's significant in itself because in succession, this is the second COP that will be taking place in Asia. It was in China the last time around. India is taking over the presidency for the next 2 years. So that is significant for India. India has made its own set of very substantial commitments in terms of tackling this challenge. But just tell us, it's the 25th year, I believe, as well.
Yes.
How far has the world progressed in terms of the initial goals that were identified in terms of taking on this challenge, and how much of it is still left?
Gautam, you're absolutely bang on there. Just initially when the whole Sustainable Development Goals were started by UN and the countries, it looked at that time that it will be difficult. But with the given time and as the year progressed, more and more people and more countries realize the fact that if they do not speed up the whole process, their very existence can be in jeopardy. The existential crisis of the world is right now upon us, and that's one of the reason why this whole COP14 it takes so much of importance. India will be having India is going to lead the COP14, the UNCCD presidency for the next 2 years, and the world will look up to India for the simple reason, it's as of now with about 29.32% of India's lands are currently affected by degradation, and 25% is affected by desertification. So you can imagine close to 30% and 25% already, and we are already the biggest, most populous country in the world with probably seventh most land in the world. So already it is putting a lot of pressure on the country, and if you take a look, we are already supporting 18% of the population, with approximately 20% of the world's livestock population in the country. So if India and China, again another big short country, they do not take the lead in making sure that these kind of issues are tackled by the world, then who will do it? Before India, it was China who was leading the COP, the UNCCD, and now India has taken over that position, and the world will look up to India to lead from the front to make sure that all the sane voices come together at one particular place, and they actually come up with a situation, they come up with a solution to this problem.
Also, if you could tell us, Tapas, there are 3 such global by and large agreements and conferences.
True.
The 2 are the Rio ones, and this one was, I believe, in Paris. Why was the need felt to have a separate one just about land?
Because the land, as I already mentioned, land is a commodity which is you cannot create. It is there, and
it's finite.
It is not infinite. It is finite. So that is the reason why it is imperative that we give a lot of importance to this. For the simple reason, if once, as I already mentioned, when a particular land it gets degraded, you cannot recreate that particular place. You have to, and the topsoil, basically the topsoil and the layers of soil that we quite easily, throw around like dirt, takes millions of years to, create. So it is an imperative thing. It is quite important for everybody, not just for India, but for everybody to understand the importance. Unfortunately, in the third world countries, we do not really appreciate the importance of land degradation and desertification. There's a major work that needs to be there to sensitize the people, the government, and everybody to the problems that currently the world faces.
तपस, जो लगभग 200 देशों के प्रतिनिधि इस सम्मेलन में हिस्सा ले रहे हैं, क्या सब जितने भी प्रतिनिधि हैं अपने अपने तरीके से को रिपोर्ट्स बना के लाए हैं जिसको लेकर यहाँ पे डिस्कशंस होंगे, डिबेट्स होंगे, उसके बाद में एक पर्टिकुलर डिक्लेरेशन की ओर आगे बढ़ा जाएगा? तो वो जो सॉल्यूशंस हैं, यहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम के बाद सॉल्यूशंस पे आगे बढ़ेंगे, उसको लेकर किस प्रकार की बातें आपकी भी जानकारी में आ रही है? प्लस दूसरा चीज़ ये कि वहाँ पे जो प्रदर्शनी लगाई गई है, एग्जीबिशन लगाई गई है, वहाँ पे क्या क्या चीज़ों को डिस्प्ले किया गया है?
जी आनंद, आपने सही कहा कि जो इतने सारे कंट्रीज, करीब 200 के करीब कंट्रीज से लोग आ रहे हैं, और आइडिया ये है कि किस तरीके से ये जो प्रॉब्लम है इसको टैकल किया जाए। और जो एग्जीबिशन की हम बात कर रहे हैं, एग्जीबिशन में बहुत सारी तरीके से लोगों को जागरूक किया जा रहा है, नई नई टेक्नोलॉजी के बारे में बताया जा रहा है कि किस तरीके से इन टेक्नोलॉजी का यूज करके हम एक तरह से ये जो प्रॉब्लम है, लैंड डिग्रेडेशन, डेजर्टिफिकेशन, जो सस्टेनेबल डेवलप की प्रॉब्लम मैं बता रहा हूँ, क्लाइमेट चेंज की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, ये इनको कैसे टैकल किया जाए। क्योंकि एंड ऑफ द डे बात यही आ जाती है कि किस तरीके से हम डेवलपमेंट भी एक तरीके से चलाएं और किस तरीके से हम हमारा जो पर्यावरण है उसका भी ख्याल रखें। तो ये जो बैलेंस है, ये बैलेंस मेंटेन करना बहुत जरूरी है। और ये जो टेक्नोलॉजी है, देखिए टेक्नोलॉजी के मामले में फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड कंट्रीज जितने भी हैं, वेस्टर्न यूरोपियन कंट्रीज कह लीजिए, यूएस कह लीजिए, ये हमसे कहीं आगे है। लेकिन कुछ चीजों में जैसे आज यूनियन मिनिस्टर फॉर एनवायरमेंट प्रकाश जावड़ेकर जी ने भी कहा कि लोकल प्रॉब्लम्स होती हैं, लोकल सोल्यूशन होता है, उनका ढूंढना पड़ता है। तो ऐसा होता है कि आपके पास टेक्नोलॉजी है लेकिन आपको शायद उस टेक्नोलॉजी का ठीक से यूजेज करना नहीं आता। तो ये एग्जीबिशन है, यहाँ पे डिफरेंट जगह से लोग आ रहे हैं, एक जगह पे एक मंच उनको मिल रहा है, बैठ रहे हैं कि किस तरीके से एक टेक्नोलॉजी जहाँ पे यूज हो रही है वो दूसरी जगह पे उसका किस तरीके से यूज हो सकता है। और यही ये जो पूरा COP14 है उसका जो सारांश वो भी यही है कि किस तरीके से हम दूसरे लोगों से सीखे, जिन लोगों ने काम किया है इस पे, और उनसे सीख लेके आगे बढ़े।
Yes, tell us also, Tapas, about there was this whole bunch of exhibits that were there in the exhibition hall as well, and we talked through when the minister was taking the other officials also through these exhibits. The minister himself seemed very well versed with all the efforts that the exhibits were about, as to how we're going about meeting the challenge of ensuring that this degraded land is sort of reclaimed and we further prevent the degradation of land as well.
Absolutely, Gautam, it is what you're actually talking about is land neutrality. How
yes.
the land which has been degraded, which is the desert that has taken place, how we can reclaim that land. Because as I already mentioned, 30% of the land has already has gone to the waste, and that's something that it takes time to get it back, to reclaim it. And that is something that the minister is keen. And the technologies that the minister I just saw, the drone system. Just giving you as a basic example, the drone system that has that's one of the stalls that have taken have introduced in the exhibition. It actually maps the whole area, because there are times you cannot when there is a huge area or tract of land is concerned, you may not be able to go through each and every part of that. So the drone technology comes in use here, which actually tells us how you can manage that. Then there is a way of how do you do fish farming. Then how do you use aquaponics. There's a new way of actually doing agriculture which minimizes the land usage. You create those pipes and create those places where you actually, on those pipes, you actually can grow the vegetables. So you don't actually need the land. But as I said, these are technologies, these are challenges that the world is facing, and these are the things that the country, India in particular, and the world in general needs to understand and needs to keep in mind as they sit down and tackle this situation.
तपस, हम इस बात को भी जानते हैं कि जब ज़मीन का बंजर होने यानी कि जो उसका मरुस्थलीकरण की जो समस्या उसको लेकर जब बात हो रही तो ये भी निकल के आया कि उसके कई प्रकार के कारण होते हैं। कुछ इलाकों में अधिक पानी के इस्तेमाल की वजह से ज़मीन बंजर होती है, कुछ इलाकों में कम पानी के इस्तेमाल की वजह से होती है, और कुछ इलाकों में पेस्टिसाइड्स और इस प्रकार के जो केमिकल्स हैं उनके इस्तेमाल की वजह से होती है। कई बार जो फ्लड आती है उसकी वजह से ज़मीन की जो उपजाऊ उसकी कटाई हो जाती है, एक तरीके से वो बह जाती है। तो क्या ये जब यहाँ पे इतने ज़्यादा देश 200 के आसपास देश बैठे हुए हैं तो क्या ये कॉमन कॉज मोर और लेस सब जगह एक जैसे है, या अलग अलग इलाकों में अगर बात की जाए तो क्या ये अलग अलग होते हैं? सोल्यूशन किस तरीके से निकलेगा इस प्रकार के जो भी कॉजेज निकल के आते हैं उस पर?
नहीं, आपने सही कहा कि बहुत से जगहों की अपनी अलग प्रॉब्लम्स होती है। हम नॉर्थ ईस्ट की बात करें, अगर हम केरला की बात करें, राजस्थान की बात करें, हर जगह की अपनी एक प्रॉब्लम्स है। अगर हम दिल्ली कैपिटल की बात करें, जस्ट गिविंग यू एग्जांपल, एनसीआर में एक स्टडी के मुताबिक जो 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 यमुना प्लेन है वहां पे जो खेती होती है उसमें टॉक्सिक मटेरियल बहुत भारी मात्रा में पाया गया है। तो उस तरीके से अगर आप देखें तो लैंड डिग्रेडेशन कितना हुआ है कि वहां पे जो खेती हो रही है उसमें जो खाना जो अनाज उपज रहा है उसमें जो ये जो टॉक्सिक केमिकल है, मैग्नीशियम, लीड, इनकी मात्रा बहुत ज्यादा है और एंड ऑफ द डे ये फूड चेन में आ जाता है। जब फूड चेन में आता है तो वो सिर्फ एक इंसान को नहीं, एक जनरेशन को नहीं, एक पूरे फूड साइकिल को इफेक्ट करता है, चाहे वो मवेशी हो, चाहे वो इंसान हो, चाहे वो पानी हो, चाहे कुछ भी हो, क्योंकि सब जो जितने भी वर्ल्ड में, इंडिया में जितने भी जहां पे भी है वो सब इसी पे निर्भर है, खाने पे ही निर्भर है। तो जैसे ही ये आपके फूड इंटेक में, आपके फूड चेन में आता है तो एक तरह से एक जहर हो जाता है। तो किस तरीके से उससे निपटा जाए, वो कुछ जगह पे लोकल सोल्यूशन की जरूरत होती है, कुछ जगहों पे आपको देखना पड़ता है कि किस तरीके से इंटरनेशनल सोल्यूशन काम आए। तो ये सब चीजें जो होती है ये इसी वजह से ये जो यूएनसीसीडी का ये जो सेशन है, ये प्लेनरी सेशन है, क्योंकि ये इनफॉर्मल मीटिंग्स चलेगी, एक दूसरे से बात करेंगे कि किससे कितना क्या है, किसके से बात सीखने के लिए, कौन अपने से क्या आप दूसरे को सिखा सकता है, क्या भारत को किससे कहाँ से सीखना है, क्या टेक्नोलॉजी भारत के पास है या नहीं है, तो कहाँ से वो टेक्नोलॉजी मिल सकती है। तो ये सब चीजें जानने के लिए ही ये एक तरह से जो किया जा रहा है वो ये जो COP14 का जो स्टार्ट हुआ है वो इसलिए हुआ है। मैं एक आपको बेसिक से बता रहा हूँ कि जिस तरीके से ये जो डिग्रेडेशन की बात हम कर रहे हैं, क्लाइमेट चेंज की बात करें, करीब 1 मिलियन स्पीसीज, मतलब सिर्फ स्पीसीज से मेरा मतलब है जितने भी जानवर है, जंतु है, पक्षी है, कीड़े मकोड़े, जितने भी 1 मिलियन स्पीसीज को इस वक्त खतरा है अगर हम इससे ना निपटे। और अगर आप समझिए अगर ये इसका ये खतरा इतना बढ़ जाएगा तो ये एक तरह से इम्पैक्ट करेगा आपके फूड चेन में, या आपकी इम्पैक्ट करेगा जो वर्ल्ड जो ह्यूमन इकोलॉजी साइकिल जिसे कहा जाता है अंग्रेजी में, इकोलॉजी में इकोसिस्टम पे इम्पैक्ट करेगा। तो ये कई मायनों में एक पाथ ब्रेकिंग चीज है, कई मामलों में ये एक ऐसा कॉन्फ्रेंस हो रहा है जिसमें दिल्ली डिक्लेरेशन जो होगा वो अगले 2 साल में तय करेगा किस दिशा में ये ह्यूमन बींग्स, किस दिशा में ये जो अर्थ की हम मदर नेचर की बात कर रहे हैं वो जाएगा।
Now, as far as this target of combating land degradation is concerned, India has set its own voluntary target, Tapas. Is there any confusion about this target? The minister just a few days back said 50 lakh hectares. Is that the figure that was always agreed, or was there something else?
Well, it is not, it was people were talking about that, how can you come up with a figure? But let's just put it this way, it's better to have a figure rather than not having a one. So, and it's not a small figure, mind you. In fact, in the last 5 years, India has managed to increase its, forest cover by 1%.
तपस हम आपको रोकना चाहेंगे, इस वक्त प्लेनरी सेशन की शुरुआत होने जा रही है, आइए सीधे सुनते हैं कि क्या कुछ वहाँ घटनाक्रम चल रहा है।
Delegates are invited to take their seat, please. Thank you.
Distinguished Mr. Ibrahim Thiaw, Executive Secretary of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, colleagues, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Mr. Zhang Jianlong, President of the COP14, I'm highly honored to declare the opening of the plenary of the COP14 of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification.
尊敬的联合国防止荒法公约执秘伊布拉辛·迪奥先生。各位代表、女士们、先生们，大家下午好。
Executive Secretary Ibrahim Thior of UNCCD, Your Excellency, Mr. Javadakar, Minister of Environment, Forestry and Climate Change of India, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of Mr. Zhang Jianlong, President of COP14 and Administrator of National Forestry of Grassland Administration of China, I would like to express our heartfelt thanks to all the parties concerned for their trust and support to the Chinese government, as well as the President himself over the past 2 years. We would also pay tribute to the government of India and its people for their hard work hosting COP14. And finally, to all the delegates present, welcome to India. Land is the mother of all species, and planet Earth is the only homeland of human beings. Desertification is described as cancer of the Earth, as it directly threatens global food and security and leads to hunger, poverty, and conflicts and underdevelopment. In 1996, UNCCD as the only UN convention on land came into effect, signaling the beginning of the global efforts to fight against desertification. 2 years ago, COP13 was convened in Ordos, China, with China hosting the conference. COP13 focused on such core issues as the implementation of Agenda 2030, formulation of the new strategic framework, and promotion of LDN targets, which achieved positive outcomes. Which are as follows, mainly. First, the consideration of a 2018-2030 strategic framework, which set out the timeline and roadmap for LDN global targets. Second, the adoption by about 120 countries of their national voluntary compliance targets and submission of their national reports. Third, the adoption of Ordos Declaration, which highlights green economy on the deserts and eco-civilization, as well as innovation, coordination, going green and open, and sharing of new development ideas. Fourth, the initiation of Global Youth Initiative on Desertification, which encourage the youth to participate in fight against the desertification, which sowed the seeds among the youth worldwide against desertification. Since COP13, a number of meetings took place under the Secretariat of UNCCD, including a ministerial one in New York, the first meeting of LDN Fund, and the 17th CRIP meeting and other meetings, which further consolidated the outcomes of COP13 and achieved a number of important consensus, including the 3S initiative, thus making good contribution to the sustainable land management of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this will be the last meeting China will host as the president of COP13. China is the largest population affected by desertification. We are also the largest developing country, making the biggest donor to UNCCD. Although we would no longer hold the presidency, China will continue to make every effort in training, research, and exchanges with our brothers and sisters in other developing countries, and will do our utmost to provide practical support to the global effort in combating desertification, so as to make steady progress in this regard. On the 8th of September, China will hold a side event on South-South cooperation, and we welcome you all to come and join us. Every meeting of COP is the result of the collective will and wisdom of parties and the hard efforts of the host country and the Secretariat. I hope that all parties and international organizations would take this opportunity to step up communication and align international strategies to forge mutually beneficial and win-win cooperation. We should also demonstrate good faith, enhance our confidence, and have more extensive exchanges so as to develop a blueprint for the global effort in combating desertification and make a constructive contribution to the UN Climate Action Summit that will be held later this month. By doing so, we will create a driving force for the global sustainable development. Finally, I wish this conference a great success. Thank you all.
Distinguished delegates, I would now like to invite the plenary to consider item 1A of the provisional agenda, the election of the President of COP14 of the UN Convention to Combat Desertification. As I understand, on the election, the state parties have reached consensus on the choice of the presidency to this convention, that is to nominate Mr. Pradesh Javakada to be the president of COP14 of the UN Convention to Combat Desertification. I wonder if I can understand, since there are no other nominations, the plenary agrees to elect Minister Pradesh Javakada to be the president of COP14. Since I'm not hearing otherwise, the election is formally adopted. I would now declare formally that Mr. Pradesh Javakada, Minister of Environment, Forestry and Climate Change of the Republic of India, to be the President of COP14. I would now like to, on behalf of the conference, to congratulate Mr. Javakada to be elected the President of COP14, and I would like to invite His Excellency to come up to the podium to take his seat.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to have been elected President of the 14th session of Conference of Parties to the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. And I wish to express my sincere gratitude to the parties for their confidence in me. Just one minute. Friends, I welcome Ibrahim Chaval, Executive Secretary, UNCCD, my ministerial colleague, Babul Supriyo, and delegations who have come from all over the world. I welcome you in this beautiful city of Delhi. Actually, this is Noida, a city which is very near to Delhi, as it is suburb, but it is in Uttar Pradesh. But welcome, you will find Delhi very interesting, and you will also move around and enjoy the city, because that much time you will have in between. Ladies and gentlemen, I extend heartfelt welcome to all dignitaries on the dais and participants gracing this occasion today at India Expo Mart in Greater Noida from today to 13 September. As I told you, Delhi is an ancient city with tremendous history that has seen many dynasties and empires. It is therefore a multicultural and cosmopolitan city. Let me inform you that because of this history, it has more than 1,000 recognized monuments. It is one of the greatest cities in the world with few city forests inside the city itself. And at the same time, I must thank China, because China has very ably handled their presidency for last 2 years and taken all our concerns together to a new level. We have to move ahead now, but I must thank China for their role as a presidency in last 2 years. On behalf of India's 1.3 billion population, I am delighted to welcome at the distinguished participants, delegates, United Nations organizations, intergovernmental organizations, think tanks, civil society organizations, industry, press, media, observers. I would also like to suggest that let us be optimistic, because whenever as an environment minister, I was also part of the Paris Agreement. In UNFCCC, in CBD, in UNCCD, there are always two opinions. One section feels it's a doomsday now. Everything will be finished. I think we must have faith in our action. I am optimistic about future. I am confident for one thing. If human actions have caused damage, maybe climate change, degradation of land, and also the biodiversity destruction. So if human actions have caused damage, Further human action, intelligence, intent and technology can also restore the land, ecology and environment. And with that positive confidence, we need to start the deliberations of this COP14. This is the 25 years of UNCCD. And this is, in a way, never before COP, with 6,500 plus registrations, with 100 ministers confirming their attendance in the high-level segment, and practically all UN affiliate organizations heads are coming here. So this will become definitely a historic COP. Ladies and gentlemen, United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification was adopted in Paris in 1994 and ratified by 196 countries and European Union. UNCCD works towards improving the living conditions of the affected people, maintaining and restoring degraded land and enhancing soil productivity and mitigating the efforts of drought on marginalized populations. I feel honored to head all three Rio conventions, namely UNCCD, CBD and UNFCCC, situated in my ministry. We have a ministry called Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So it covers all. And feel proud to applaud United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, Secretariat for the collaboration with the Government of India for hosting COP14 in India. India ratified UNCCD Convention in 96. This convention can be called as Mother Convention. Of the other two Rio conventions that emerged as a major outcome of 92 Rio Earth Summit, UNCCD and Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, since the land has strong interlinkages with climate change and biodiversity. For me, this is all more befitting, as in India, we look Earth as our mother. We call Bharat Mata, because even in normal rituals, or even when we are building a structure or doing any good thing, we worship the land, because in our ethos, land is also treated as mother, and therefore an inbuilt culture of protecting the Mother Earth, and that is what the Indian ethos is. So ecosystem restoration is a very important aspect of our COP, and I am very sure that these COP deliberations will help in finding new ways. The objective of COP14, accompanied with 14th meeting of Committee on Science and Technology and 18th meeting of CRIC 18, is to discuss various issues of land such as sustainable land management, reversing land degradation, mitigation drought, halting desertification, addressing sand and dust storms, linkages with gender, tenure, etc., and guide the convention as global circumstances and national needs change. This beautiful COP14 logo is also crowdsourced. We invited young minds to design, and I think this is the beautiful logo which has come out, which by just viewing it, we can have the whole theme in our eyes, that this is what we need to do, from voluntary efforts to a public policy effort, from frustration to a hope. We have to travel, and I am very sure we will. We can and we will. That is what we will achieve in this COP14. The key outcomes of COP14 will facilitate in delivering convergence and synergies among the existing programs in the field of agriculture, forestry, land, water management, poverty alleviation, which will cater the need to achieve the sustainable development goals and focused vision of our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji And I'm very happy to announce that on 9th in the high level segment, India's most popular and UN recognized great environmentalist, a protectionist, is coming and opening the COP high level segment on 9th of September. So we have already launched a scheme of doubling farmers' income. It is improving the agricultural productivity. The basis is soil productivity. And that is again a basic theme of soil restoration. On 25th September 2015, world leaders at United Nations adopted 2030 agenda for SDGs with 169 targets and 17 goals. Out of these 17 SDGs and 15, SDG 15 is very ambitious. SDG which encompasses all types of land-based ecosystems and biodiversity with 12 targets and 12 indicators that draw heavily from 2011 to 2020 strategic plan for biodiversity and Aichi targets to be reached by 2020. Further, in March 2019, the UN declared 2130 as the decade for ecosystem restoration. Target 15.3 of SDG 15 not only drives UNCCD implementation but also contributes to other SDGs relating to climate change, biodiversity, ecosystem, food and water security, and poverty alleviation. Healthy ecosystem plays a critical role in 2030 agenda for sustainable development imperative of leave no one behind. That is most important. We walk together. We work together. We share together, and then we make future which is more sustainable, and we can hand over a better earth than what it is today to our new generation, the future generation. That is our motto. Desertification affects 2/3 of the countries of the world and 1/3 of the earth. In an unprecedented global campaign to save productive land, 112 countries as of today have agreed to make the Sustainable Development Goal targets of achieving land degradation neutrality by 2030 a national target for action. The world's largest and most populous nation, including Brazil, China, India, Nigeria, Russia, South Africa, have committed to their national targets. About 40% of the world population are now living in water scarce regions. About 25% of all land globally is highly degraded. Because of land degradation, displacement also takes place in some places. 36% of carbon is stored in drylands, mainly soils. Thus, drylands are pivotal in the global fight against climate change and desertification. The drivers of land degradation includes direct drivers such as earthquakes, landslides, drought, floods, human-induced such as deforestation, wetland damage, overgrazing, unsustainable land use practices, and the expansion of agriculture, industrial and urban areas, and indirect drivers such as consumption patterns, population explosion, technological and institutional and social cultural causes. I would appreciate initiatives of many countries who are working on increasing climate resilience, improving sustainable land management, improving land tenure, restoring degraded lands, improving livelihoods, opportunities and land rehabilitation. India is the 7th largest country, as you know, with 2.5% of the world's land mass, with 17% of human population, with 20% of world's cattle population. Both require land and water, and we have only 4% of fresh rainwater. Still, we have 24% of tree cover and forest cover, and in last 5 years, we have increased that cover by 15,000 square kilometers. Once you start greening more, you restore the land automatically. That is how things happen. Today on the 14 sessions of Conference of Parties, we reaffirm our commitment towards protecting the land resources India will achieve sustainable land management and land restoration by 2030 as committed. I am proud to share that India has exceeded the IK targets under the Convention on CBD. Also, India's tree and forest cover has shown an absolute good increase in the last 5 years. India has done many things which my colleague, Minister of State, who is also a very popular artist in India, a very good vocalist, so he will also give you the account of what India has done in his country statement. But I want to emphasize what is the global scenario. And let me also remind that India hosted the 4-day Asia-Pacific Regional Workshop with UNCCD, wherein the national and international participation from about 40 Asia-Pacific countries were trained in the use of innovative land degradation monitoring tool and build capacity of country parties for reporting to UNCCD on land-based indicators. India, being the country party to the convention, has submitted a national report on the future strategic framework 2018 to 2030, comprising of 3 land-based indicators: land cover, land productivity, and soil organic carbon, to UNCCD at the performance of review the implementation of the convention Paris portal of UNCCD. The opening session of the high-level segment on 9th September, as I told you, is to be inaugurated by our Prime Minister, and he would be addressing the August gathering constituting Deputy Secretary General United Nations, Executive Secretary UNCCD, President of the COP, and all others dignitaries and all ministers also who will join on 8th. There will be many side events and exhibition. We saw it. UNCCD Executive Secretary and we went, opened that pavilion. It's very worthwhile to spend few hours in that exhibition. There will be many side events and exhibition to demonstrate countries' present and upcoming effort to combat desertification and drought and to achieve land degradation neutrality from all over the world. India Pavilion is also launched for showcasing the success stories and achievements of India, depicting the nexus between land, water, energy, biodiversity, climate change, science and technology. The delegates will be given an information diary on the arrival at the airport, which you must have received, which will have all necessary details of the free shuttle bus services to hotels, venue of the COP, and for return journey also, and its important landmarks, markets, contact details of all government and other facilities. Information is also available on our special website, UNCCD COP14 India, at the .gov.in. The venue, India Expo Mart Limited, is a state-of-the-art facility, and the host government has made all necessary arrangements in terms of providing Wi-Fi, internet connectivity, adequate food beverages section, cafeteria during the course of the stay here. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all resolve to make the local lands healthier and more productive for providing a better homeland and better future to its inhabitants. I hope delegates joining us from all over the globe will have some time to see the history and splendor of Delhi. Your participation in this conference is of utmost value, because I believe that the diverse world comes out with brilliant ideas, and when they are based on their own experiences and perceptions and also based upon their research and technology and their experience, they are much valued, and we must all learn from each other, take success stories back to home and try to emulate all the success stories so we combat desertification. Thank you and all the best. I now invite my colleague Babul Supriyo, Minister of State, Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India, to make a statement on behalf of the host country. Excellency, you have the floor.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. With great pleasure, I stand here to deliver a statement for my country. But first and foremost, let me do the honors of congratulating my boss, the Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Mr. Prakash Javadekar, for being the new president of COP. I am very sure that he is going to play the very good cop and bring about the changes that climate needs in the world right now, and in not only bring about the changes but also reverse the changes which are needed to make this motherland, as he said, this planet, a better place to live in. I would like to welcome Mr. Ibrahim Theo, the ever-smiling Executive Secretary, Dr. Pradeep Monga, Deputy Executive Secretary, dignitaries of UNCCD, Ms. Carmen Margina, Conference Officer, and everyone, all the luminaries and dignitaries present from different parts of the country, different parts of the world rather, in this hall today to celebrate and to deliberate what we need to do to make this planet a better place to live in. I was just going through, as I was sitting here, as you all normally do, I was trying to find out a few good quotes on environment. And there was one particular quote that I really loved, and that's one by David Henry Thoreau. He says that, what's the use of a fine house if you haven't got the tolerable planet to put it on? So I'm sure all of us we all aspire to have great homes for ourselves, but in order to have a great home for our family and ourselves, we need to make this planet a great home for all of us, because this planet, this world belongs to everyone. I am now going to, as my boss Prakash ji had said, Honorable Minister, that I am going to talk about few things that our country has achieved and is is aspiring to do in the days to come, and now with the presidency of Shri Prakash Javadekar ji, in the coming years, to make to reverse and combat desertification, and in the areas of climate change, forest and environment, in order to achieve the goals that would make this planet a more beautiful place. It is already very beautiful, but all the man-made damage, as he rightly mentioned, can be reversed with the advanced technologies, science and everything else that we have, artificial intelligence and everything else that we have at our disposal today. I am going to sing a few praises of India without singing anything, as he said in the beginning. So, friends, India considers the fight against land degradation to be of paramount importance. As we all know, land is a fulcrum of ecology, livelihoods, employment, energy, food security. India is home to 1/6 of humanity and also the largest cattle population in the world. Around 50% of the population of India still depends upon land-based livelihoods like agriculture, livestock rearing, forestry, pastoralism, and different production systems. India is one of the largest producer and market of food grains, fruit, vegetables, and dairy products. I loved, that's the data, of course, but I thank Ibrahim ji, as we would say it in India, for highlighting it. It's something that probably had never hit us, that land produces 99.7% of the food that we consume. And therefore, the importance of this COP, this 14th COP, where we are going to talk about how to combat desertification, how to make land more fertile, how we can increase the production of food grains and everything else, how we can make farmers, how we can give farmers a better livelihood, and in the bargain earn and gain more better quality food and a better planet for ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, land related issues are a common problem across the world. Issues like land tenure, declining agricultural productivity, deforestation, man-animal conflict are affecting every member of the country today. India has pressing issues of population pressure, food security, ecological security, biodiversity conservation, where land plays a very important role. But nothing is actually lost as yet. Under the invigorating leadership of our Honorable PM Narendra Modi ji, India has been very proactive in combating land degradation, desertification and drought. As per FAO's Forest Resource Assessment 2010, India is among top 5 countries to have worked on forest restoration. Also, India is among the top 10 countries in the world rather, with net forest gain as per Forest Resource Assessment 2015. We have added more than 15,000 square kilometers of tree cover inside and outside forest areas in the last 5 years, which you will agree is a big success in land restoration. You know, what I have written here, what I am supposed to share with all of you might seem a little long to you, but let me tell you that in India we are, as the second largest country in terms of population, we are doing a lot to ensure that we make India a better place to live in, and while doing that also contribute towards making world a better place. So I would really request you to hear me and kind of concentrate on, try to gather or absorb as much as I talk about what our country has achieved, because that will make you more excited about my boss Prakash Javadekar ji being now the new president of COP. Currently, a lot of schemes of land-related interventions like National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme are in progress in India. NREGS is one of the unique schemes of India which guarantees every job-seeking individual the right to livelihoods and employment, and thus the significance of land-related interventions is for all of us to see. Most importantly, India has one of the largest areas under integrated watershed management in the world. Inspired by the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji's impetus on water conservation, the Jal Shakti Abhiyan, Jal as in water, the Jal Shakti is power. Jal Shakti Abhiyan is again a movement. So Jal Shakti Abhiyan is a time-bound mission mode campaign. During the campaign, officers, groundwater experts and scientists from the Government of India will work together with state and district officials in India's most water-stressed districts for water conservation and water resource management by focusing on accelerated implementation of 5 targets. The JSA aims at making water conservation a public movement through asset creation and extensive communication. It will provide each house with portable and assured water supply in 5 years' time. India has been an ancient civilization, as you all know, and once you move around in Delhi, as we aspire, as we hope that you are going to do, when you find a little time, you will really understand how rich a heritage, how rich a history we really have. And India's culture and ethos have ecology embedded in it. As per a quote in Matsya Purana, an ancient text, 1 tree is equal to 10 sons. Maybe I would add that 1 tree is equal to 10 sons or 10 daughters. Our constitution has also added these values incorporated in the directive principles of state policy, which call upon the state for protection and conservation of environment. Our ministry being not only the Ministry for Environment and Climate Change, but also that of forests, it's important for me to highlight a few achievements that we have, kind of been able to do in the area of forestry. Joint forest management in India is something that we are really thinking seriously upon, a story of progression towards participatory forest management and livelihood enhancement for the tribal communities in India. India has a long history of scientific forest management since the 19th century. India's efforts towards participatory forest management through the Joint Forest Management Program are widely recognized across the forestry fraternity. India is proud to have 77 of the world's tiger population with 2,967 tigers, which testifies to the protected status of the ecology. However, this is just one of the many milestones of India's conservation history. Despite India having 18% of human population of the world, really, despite India having 18% of human population of the world and 2.5% of land mass, we have 24% of our land cover under forest and tree cover, which I think is a pretty good thing to know. India's forest and ecology do not just serve the industry, but also the livelihood needs of approximately 1.5 million tribal people and other forest-dwelling communities who call forests their home. So India's forest has approximately 100 million people who are living in close proximity to the forests and are dependent upon it for food, fodder, forest produce and their livelihood needs. We believe, and we strongly believe, that the tribal people are the real protectors of the forest, and we have given them their forest rights. India's National Forest Policy, formulated 4 years before the Earth Summit, developed a unique model of forest management with tribals and forest dwellers. This brought about the Joint Forest Management Guidelines in 1991, which led people's participation in the development and management of forests through a give-and-take relationship with the forests. After the initial successes in West Bengal and Haryana, the JFM schemes received national importance. I am happy to report that by 2010, there were about 1,12,816 joint forest management committees in place, managing nearly 24.65 million hectares of forest lands. Mr. Ibrahim, you will be very pleased to know that your head office is in Bonn, B-O-N-N. In India, or in Hindi, or even in my mother tongue, Bengali, we have several languages. If you just keep the spelling same, but pronounce it the way we do it, it becomes Bonn, which means forest. Don't you think that's interesting? So your headquarters is in Bonn. If you say it the Indian way, it becomes Bonn, which is forest. The role of trees grown on private land. You can enjoy my jokes because I have to read out. This is all that we have achieved in India, and I need all of you to know about it. The role of trees grown on private land will be crucial to meet the demand for wood and wood products in the country. The government of India is creating an enabling environment for growing more trees on private land. The National Farmers Policy 2007 provides sufficient space for agroforestry and NTEPS, non-timber forest produce, to enhance the income of farmers. The draft 2014 agroforestry policy is also a step in that direction. The role of communities will be more crucial in the sustainable development of forests in future. We still are trying to rationalize regulatory and policy constraints for trees grown on private land to motivate the private sector to grow more trees, which will facilitate achieving 1/3 of the land area under forest or trees. You know, we have a very famous film which is called Dawn, and in that film there is a dialogue which says that, whatever I am saying, in Hindi it says, ये मुश्किल है पर नामुमकिन नहीं. It is hard, but it is not impossible to achieve this. Whatever we are preaching can actually be possible practically if we can take it to people's mind, if they understand the warning signals that the world is already giving us and work collectively towards making Earth a better home for all of us. India is practicing in situ conservation of wildlife through the protected area network of more than 600 national parks, sanctuaries, biosphere reserves and community reserves. Special efforts are being made for in situ conservation of the tiger population. Looking towards the future, we are also trying to participate in progressive legislations like the REDD Plus for preventing deforestation and in new age frameworks like forest certification. Further, India is already a signatory to the Bonn Challenge, where it has voluntarily committed to restore 21 million hectares of forest lands till 2030. So, Mr. Ibrahim, we are part of the Bonn Challenge. the forest challenge to create so much hectares of new forest. The story of wasteland development in India and social forestry land degradation issues were addressed with the setting up of the National Wasteland Development Board, the NWDB, in June 1985 with the principal aim of reclaiming wastelands through a massive program of afforestation activities with people's participation, which our Honorable Prime Minister aptly mentions that Jan Bhagidari. People's participation is something that we really need in every sphere of this particular challenge. There was considerable increase in the total area brought under afforestation program. Block plantations, strip plantations and farm forestry were carried out. In 1997, setting up of the National Afforestation Board gave another impetus to the increase in green cover in India. During the last 50 years since independence, around 27 million hectares of land has been brought under tree cover in the various plan periods at a cost of about 70,000 million as per our ministry records, and the purpose of the scheme was served. We are also trying to give a fill up to urban forestry. What are the watershed developments we have done in India which makes us one country who has really taken this job or this challenge of combating desertification, or be it reversing the adverse climate changes that we have had in the world or around us. In the late 80s, watershed related success stories like Ralegaon Siddhi, Hivre Bazaar, Sikho Manjari, etc. became a part of India's growth story. Soon, watershed became a movement amongst the civil society in India. With the release of Hariyali guidelines in 1994, Hariyali means greenery. With the release of Hariyali guidelines in 1994, watershed development was adopted by the Ministry of Agriculture and various state governments. By 2013, under the various schemes of the Department of Land Resources, like IWMP, 59.19 million hectares were treated till 2013. Similarly, the Department of Agriculture and Cooperation has treated 22.85 million hectares of land, thus almost 3,20,000 million rupees had been spent on watershed development through these programs. Agricultural lands, green, white and blue revolution in India. Because of the Green Revolution, the country that was producing 70 million tons at one point of time is now producing 270 million tons of food grains. I mean, that's almost 4 times what we did previously. Between 1961 and 66, due to various factors, India got a setback due to drought, external conflicts and devaluation of the rupee. India showed its true potential in agriculture with the beginning of Green Revolution. India saw a steep increase in agricultural output with the combined use of new high-yielding variety of seeds, fertilizers and pesticides. India also exported $38 billion of agricultural products in 2013, making it the 7th largest agricultural exporter in the world. During 1974 to 1979, India faced a lot of problems of inflation and balance of payment due to steep rise in prices of imported oil. India was also milk deficient that time and malnourishment was rampant in India. Thanks to the efforts of Dr. Verghese Kurian and cooperative movement in Gujarat, it was actually magical. The Amul model of cooperatives was born and the National Dairy Development Board was founded. During the late 80s, animal husbandry programs were given focus and the success of Operation Flood brought India to the top in terms of dairy production. Today, the Amul Group's turnover exceeds 450 million rupees and India has become a forerunner in the cooperative dairy movement. Space technologies used in mapping. India is one of the few countries to have come out with national land degradation atlases. India, owing to its advanced space program, is one of the few countries in the world to have substituted the data from the European Space Agency with its own data in the LDN land degradation assessment. Also, India's space technologies are also famous for being cost effective and application oriented in nature. By the way, I might want to tell you that within the next 24 or 48 hours, Chandrayaan-2, our moon mission, is going to, drop the space, the Vikram, which is the name of the unit that is going to reach the moon. It is going to land on the moon. It is going to happen anytime in the 24 to 48 hours, most of you, while you are still in India. So please do watch it on TV. It's a moonshed moment for us. In terms of drought management, now what's that? All of us know about it. India has already a very advanced system of drought management with the National Disaster Management Policy 2009 and the National Disaster Management Plan 2016 already in place. Drought management includes both short and long-term measures. Reactive or crisis-oriented approach aims at effective in-season drought management through loss minimization strategies. A sound operational drought monitoring system is critical for in-season or short-term drought management. A holistic approach for drought assessment by involving the indices related to soil, moisture, meteorology, hydrology and agriculture is required. Satellite remote sensing data enables continuous monitoring of agricultural lands based on biophysical indicators generated from sensor data. India is also trying to develop standard operating procedures for drought monitoring and early warning systems. In India, there is a national drought manual which providing guidelines to states on drought monitoring and assessment since 2009. Some of the other major schemes being currently implemented with a focus on land and natural afforestation program, Green India Mission, Soil Health Card Scheme, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, More Crop Per Drop, Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, Har Khet Ko Pani. Thus, given this background, India would like to endorse the cause of combating land degradation and achieving land degradation neutrality. I also call upon the various environment ministers of the various countries to endeavor towards land restoration efforts. Friends, today Earth's climate change is a shared problem, and unless it is addressed globally and collectively, we will not succeed. The savior is more potent than the destroyer. I also feel that together we can bring about positive change. I call upon all of you to deliberate upon this issue in the coming days so that we can save our earth for our future generations. Thank you so much, all of you, ladies and gentlemen, dignitaries. I hope you have a wonderful stay. I hope the intelligent minds deliberate amongst themselves to bring about some really fantastic solutions where we can not only preach about what to do for the earth, but also encourage and inspire people to put them into practice. While you do that till the 13th or 14th of September, I wish all of you get to taste some real yummy Indian dishes. Trust me, you will find it everywhere in every corner of Delhi. And Indian food is something, trust me, which will give you a feeling of what kind of good land we have which can produce that kind of beautiful food. So once again, thank you so much, and heartiest congratulations to my boss, Shri Prakash Javadekar ji, for being chosen as the new president of COP. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Yes. I thank my colleague Supriyo for his country statement. I now have the pleasure to invite the Executive Secretary of UNCCD, Mr. Ibrahim Thiaw, to make a statement. Minister, Mr. Executive Secretary, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, Mr. Prakash Javadekar, President of COP14, Your Excellency Babul Supriyo, Minister of State, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change of the Republic of India, host country, honorable delegates, representatives of parties, representatives of international organizations, of civil society organizations, representatives of the media, dear colleagues from the United Nations and other organizations, my dear colleague Pradeep Monga, Deputy Executive Secretary to the UNCCD, as well as my other colleagues from the Secretariat. Namaste. That's about all I know in Hindu. But I will speak in English and French, just in case you need your headsets. It's an honor and a pleasure to address this assembly for the first time as Executive Secretary of the UN Convention to Combat Desertification. I am proud to be serving the 197 parties to the Convention. Allow me, first of all, to express my sincere gratitude as well as my congratulations to Minister Prakash Javadekar and his team for the warm welcome and the hospitality extended to us and all participants. I am sure all delegates will agree with me that indeed India is an incredible country. I would like to salute your leadership and commitment in hosting the COP and for championing the land agenda. Allow me to also express my deep gratitude to Minister Zhang Jialong of China for his able leadership, as well as his team for the Chinese presidency of the last 2 years. My gratitude goes also to all members of the outgoing Bureau. Ladies and gentlemen, for the next 2 weeks, we may be between 7,000 and 8,000 registered participants tasked with making life better for the 3.5 billion who are affected by the severe degradation of 3/4 of our land. But we can't do that by wielding frightening statistics about what happens if we don't change. We have to offer a way to change, a way to harness the enormous potential of our land that rewrites the persistent narrative of doom and gloom with one of peace and security. Maybe it's a good thing that we are having this COP on Gandhi's 150th anniversary, and that we are starting this conference on the festival of Ganesh, because he is known for removing obstacles, avoiding natural calamities, and bringing good fortune. And if we succeed at this conference, that's exactly what we will achieve: removing obstacles to sustainable development, avoiding natural disasters, particularly from climate change, and bringing well-being to everyone through the jobs and opportunities that land restoration creates. My job for the next 2 weeks is to give you a solid platform that will help you create the right conditions for you to take decisions, launch actions, and build partnerships to scale up and speed up progress towards our common goals. That's why on Science Day, you will have access to experts who produced some of the key reports published this year. For example, the International Resources Panel's outlook, showing that the excessive resource use is already generating half of our greenhouse emissions and could increase them by another 43% in the next 40 years, unless we adopt circular economic flows and extend products' life cycles, which would cut that emissions growth by 90% and still increase GDP by 8%. The second report is the IPBES Global Assessment, expanding on the earlier land degradation report to reveal that human impact is driving 1 million species towards extinction, whereas doing something about it would have incredible benefits for our society, economy, and climate. The IPCC report making huge strides in confirming those three-way connections between land, climate, and biodiversity, and spelling out the consequences of inaction. Then, responding to the request from COP13, our science policy interface team has worked hard to complete 3 new technical reports covering the carbon benefits of sustainable land management, the contribution of land degradation neutrality to well-being and livelihoods, and the role of land-based interventions in drought management, drought mitigation, and risk management. There have been a lot of other valuable papers published, but the last ones I would like to make sure you have at hand are the regional editions of the Global Land Outlook. So with the science clearly spelling out what has to be done, the rest of us need to decide how it translates into policies that work for each party and how it combines with partnerships that advance our priorities. There are quite a few opportunities to do that, but let me quickly mention a couple. First, the thematic days on drought and sand and dust storms. It is estimated that 25% of global dust flying around the world are due to deforestation, overgrazing, and industrial activities. Land degradation contributes dangerously to human health risks of diseases like asthma, meningitis, and valley fever. Land erosion is a major cause of poor water quality, which again negatively affects our health and our economy. Droughts are causing serious impacts on agriculture, livestock, industry, transport, water, and air quality. In most parts of the world, years of droughts correspond to years of economic downturn. We need to build on progress achieved over the last 2 years, in particular on the drought plans being developed by over 70 parties with the support of the Secretariat. In addition to the drought toolbox we already have, many countries have expressed the need to have an integrated early warning system, better preparedness, as well as a mitigation recovery plan to drought. Pursuant to your decision at COP13, we have prepared a specific report on droughts for your consideration. While the forums for youth, business, and cities and local governments will do exactly what they say on the tin, more than 80% of the youth in the OECD countries believe it is their duty to improve the world. And more than 2/3 of us will be living in towns and cities by 2050. Making this a unique chance to listen to and learn from a cross-section of people representing a huge number of voters, taxpayers, and consumers. Ladies and gentlemen, by this time next week, we will be in a level segment which will reinforce the work behind the Delhi Declaration, lead to political momentum, and promote guidance on priority areas. For example, across the 3 roundtables. The first roundtable will explore how land can provide 1/3 of the mitigation required by 2030, complement renewable energy growth, and build resilience to flooding and drought. For example, peatland restoration can be 15 times cheaper than technical carbon capture and storage, while combining solar energy and agriculture can restore soil quality and jobs. The second roundtable will look at how integrated resource management helps both urban and rural areas. For example, using holistic planning and governance to enhance natural synergies like local farm-to-fork supply chains can alleviate food and water pressures in urban areas while reducing poverty and insecurity to stem migration from rural areas. The third roundtable will help to accelerate the SDGs by leveraging the UN Decade for Ecosystem Restoration, which was mentioned by the Minister. For example, there are over 1.5 billion hectares of forests where restoring the balance of natural and working ecosystems can increase agricultural yield, soil quality, and jobs. With potential returns on investments of up to 30 to 1, it is something that could certainly be highlighted more in the debates about fires ranging from the Arctic to Africa to the Amazon. But then let us also look at the disappearing drylands, wetlands, and peatlands. Apart from being massively underutilized opportunities, it is worth noting that all three roundtables can offer practical, cost-effective solutions where a single investment reaps multiple benefits for people as well as the climate or ecosystems, can help reduce gender and rural inequality, which in turn scales up and accelerates those benefits, and can radically step up that transformation through the involvement of indigenous and faith-based communities, investors, and business, as well as youth. Those roundtables will set the scene for the interactive dialogues, ensuring we keep that very human face of land degradation at the heart of discussions on how to accelerate the global shift in demand for values-based stewardships that a new generation of leaders is advocating for through their lifestyles, careers, and purchases. How to respond to the way healthy land supports healthy people by reinforcing the life support systems for our food and water and reducing the threats from pollution, disasters, malnutrition, drug resistance, and migration. And finally, how to exploit those synergies to build value chains that boost businesses and create jobs using areas like technology transfer, traditional knowledge, and crop diversification, something you will see explored further at the Technology Fair. Excellences, Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, au-delà des célébrations des 25 ans de notre Convention et du partenariat extraordinaire qui s'est forgé à travers les peuples et les continents,
across people and continents on the essential role of land, we now need to take a moment to be introspective and a responsibility to plan carefully for the future. Have we turned the tide in terms of land degradation? What impact have we had on vulnerable people and on ecosystems? Which radical changes must we find adopted by our leaders, both in the public sector and the private sector? How do we view the essential role of land as we seek to combat climate change? A paradigm shift must begin here in this room with those who are here present, or it will never happen. Our COP should not simply be associated with the number 14, just one more number in a series. Our COP has the privilege of being armed with the knowledge from several thousand years of experience, an accumulation of volumes of modern and traditional knowledge. Our COP in New Delhi can become a decisive moment, a watershed, in the way in which we look at the complex issue of land degradation, and as we seek to find the relevant solutions. Land recovery means opening up new opportunities to create green jobs, to create value chains and therefore wealth, moving from begging where assistance is requested to pitching a business case which will invite investment. Investing in land recovery is one of the cheapest solutions and the best way to stop carbon, and in that way to combat climate change. And it's also a pragmatic and efficient response to the challenge for conserving biodiversity and ecosystem services. Science is very clear on this matter. The economic analyses all agree. Investing in land creates opportunities. Our COP, therefore, is based on the premise that we are all decision makers and it is our choices which will make the difference. Let's build together on those opportunities. Thank you so much for your attention.
Yes. I thank Mr. Chow for his very thought-provoking and persuasive speech. Statement. Distinguished delegates, the floor is now open for the representatives of regional and interest groups, the representatives of UN system, its specialized agencies, and other intergovernmental organizations, as well as representative of non-governmental organizations to make brief statements. I now give the floor to the representative of State of Palestine on behalf of groups of 77 plus China. Palestine.
سيد الرئيس
Mr. Chair, Mr. President, I have the honor to deliver the statement on behalf of the Group G of 77 and China. At the outset, our group would like to congratulate you on your election as President of the 14th session of the COP of UNCCD. We also extend our appreciation to the Executive Secretary of the Convention, Mr. Ibrahim Thiaw, and his team for their efforts aiming at achieving the objective of combating desertification and land degradation, as well as mitigating the effects of drought. We would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank the government and people of India for hosting this conference, as well as for the warm hospitality extended to all of us since we arrived to India. The G77 and China continues to attach great importance to the tremendous challenges of desertification, land degradation, drought, sand and dust storms, as they are major environmental, economic and social challenges for global sustainable development. They are also the main causes of great suffering to millions of people across the world. Our group expresses its deep concern about the continuation of land degradation, especially that 1/5 of the Earth's land surface covered by vegetation shows persistent and declining trends in productivity. We stress that continued degradation would lead to desertification. Thus, the need to continue our efforts in order to combat desertification, to restore lands, soil, and others. Working on adaptation to climate change is an urgent priority for developing countries, especially the countries that are vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change. And we also keep in mind that that it's necessary to provide the scaled-up financial resources in order to achieve a balance between adaptation and mitigation. Mr. President, our group recommends to establish linkages between climate change and land degradation, as outlined by the IPCC Special Report on Climate Change. Land is both a source and a sink of greenhouse gases. Climate change contributes to and exacerbates land degradation and desertification processes. We also would like to recall that the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, namely Target 15.3, calls for a commitment by the international community to combat desertification, to restore degraded land and soil, including land affected by desertification, drought and floods, striving to achieve a land degradation neutral world by 2030. Therefore, strengthening the resilience of our ecosystems, agriculture, infrastructure, and societies as a whole is more urgent than ever, as we reaffirm our commitment to achieving sustainable development goals in their three dimensions: economic, social, and environmental, in a balanced and integrated manner. In this connection, our group reaffirms that the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, especially Goal 15 and Target 15.3, would serve as an accelerator to end poverty and hunger, to tackle inequality, and to stimulate economic growth. Our group further considers that desertification, land degradation, and drought are major threats of global dimension, and they aggravate economic, social, and environmental problems such as poverty, health, food security, biodiversity, water scarcity, and it also contributes to migration and to reduce our resilience to climate change. Furthermore, protecting and restoring lands are important instruments in our fight against desertification. Therefore, there is a need to strengthen the environmental information and knowledge management aspects. Our group, Mr. President, and based on the early action taken by the UNCCD Secretariat, would like to recommend helping countries in target setting and identification of national hotspots for rehabilitation and restoration. However, much is still needed to be done, such as dealing with the various and different realities at the national and regional levels in order to implement the decisions of the Convention. Our group affirms that action to achieve land degradation neutrality has the potential to act as an accelerator for achieving a number of sustainable development goals. It is also a catalyst for attracting sustainable development financing and climate finance to implement the Convention in line with the objectives of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We call upon all countries to achieve the LDN targets as appropriate by providing substantial financial resources, facilitated access to appropriate technology, and other forms of support. We recommend to consider sand and dust storms as serious challenges to sustainable development in the affected countries and regions, and we reiterate our calls to the United Nations system to play its role in advancing international cooperation and support to combat sand and dust storms. We invite all other relevant organizations to integrate into their respective cooperation frameworks and operational programs measures and actions aimed at combating sand and dust storms, including capacity building, information sharing, as well as developing early warning systems. We also stress the importance of addressing socio-economic, environmental challenges of the affected countries and ways to address and combat sand and dust storms in the context of Sustainable Development Goals. Mr. President, our group reiterates that implementing Agenda 2030 as well as Sustainable Development Goals are one of the most important priorities of developing countries. This is the start of a future that we are all aiming for, a future that we want also to secure for the future generations. Thank you, Mr. President.
A good speech by Palestine Group 77 in China. So I thank the representative of State of Palestine. Before I give floor to Finland, let me share a thought with you. I know that you have come from far away to this place to tell your story, and that is very important for us, all of us. But I'm also very confident that you can deliver it in 5 minutes. So I now give the floor to the representative of Finland, on behalf of European Union and its member states.
President, Honorable Minister, Executive Secretary, distinguished delegates, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my privilege to deliver this statement on behalf of the European Union and its member states. Let me start by expressing our deep gratitude and appreciation to the Government of India for hosting the 14th Conference of the Parties of the UNCCD. India is uniquely suited for our theme and allows us to see and experience some of the extensive national efforts to rehabilitate and restore degraded landscapes. For instance, the forest cover in India has increased by 670,000 hectares since 2015. We believe these encouraging examples of India will inspire and motivate even more ambitious action around the world, and that under India's leadership, the international effort towards achieving land degradation neutrality could rapidly move forward. In addition, we want to thank the outgoing Chinese presidency along with the COP Bureau and outgoing Executive Secretary Monique Barbu. We welcome Mr. Ibrahim Thiaw, the new Executive Secretary, who has with his hard-working secretariat and Indian hosts made significant efforts in preparing this conference. This year we celebrate the 25th anniversary of the convention. Since 1994 we have cooperated in combating desertification and in mitigating the efforts of drought under the UNCCD, which is the sole legally binding international agreement linking environment and development to sustainable land management. Ladies and gentlemen, it's estimated that 2 billion hectares of land is degraded worldwide, and we continue to degrade another 12 million hectares of productive land every year. The recent IPCC report on climate change and land and the earlier IPBES work show that land degradation is strongly linked to both global climate change and biodiversity crisis. The IPCC report clearly demonstrates the wide-ranging impact of land degradation. Land degradation risks our ability to feed the world, threatens the survival of over 1 million species, severely disrupts and in some cases destroys ecosystems and undermines resilience. It also drives resource-related conflicts and forced displacement that demand costly international intervention. If the current trend continues, 135 million people could be forced to leave their homes by 2045. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a science-based concept of land degradation neutrality as the focus of the UNCCD 2018 to 2030 strategic framework linking the UNCCD more closely to Agenda 2030. The land degradation neutrality target setting program is exceeding our expectations. We welcome progress in setting voluntary LDN targets in 122 countries. We also welcome the efforts by the Global Mechanism and the Global Environment Facility in instrumentally assisting countries in this process. We appreciate the successful reporting and review process. What is now necessary is to translate the ambitious targets set by countries into action by integrating them into relevant policies and budgets. Multilateral financial institutions and the private sector need to channel funds more efficiently into sustainable land management and land restoration programs. In this regard, we support innovative financing schemes and the necessary adjustments for full operationalizations of the LDN fund. The UN Decade for Ecosystem Restoration offers large opportunities to that end. Ladies and gentlemen, land is where we live. Land is under growing human pressure, but land is also a part of the solution. Improving land use planning and management practices is essential for achieving land degradation neutrality. Therefore, we must focus on creating an enabling environment for transformative and inclusive projects, including those created under the LDN framework. An integrated approach to sustainable land management would help reduce pressure on and mitigate conflict over various land users and address concerns regarding land grabbing and access rights. Furthermore, by improving livelihood opportunities, it will help address some of the root causes of environment-induced displacement and change the narrative in communities impacted by desertification, land degradation and drought. We also need to take into account specific local conditions and engage land users and local communities, particularly women, youth, and other relevant stakeholders. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome the advances made in the reporting on the implementation of the Convention and on the LDN. For the first time, affected and non-affected parties report in a standardized, quantitative manner and against the 5 strategic objectives of the Convention for 2018 to 2030. Women are key agents of change. However, only about 20% of agricultural land is held by women globally. To achieve the Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Agenda, the empowerment of women and girls is crucial. Therefore, we invite parties to create enabling environments and undertake reforms at the national level to make the implementation of the Convention gender responsive and transformative. The Gender Action Plan of the UNCCD requires more concrete and systematic actions in its 4 priority areas. We welcome the new agenda item on land tenure. Responsible land governance, secure land tenure, and strengthened land use and access rights are fundamental components of sustainable land management. The SDGs and their targets are interlinked and indivisible. We must also recognize the importance of working towards other SDGs in parallel to have truly transformative change in terms of sustainability, equality, and economic development. Ladies and gentlemen, science is key to the Convention. Sound scientific understanding of the causes and processes of land degradation and desertification is necessary for designing effective measures to avoid, reduce, and reverse land degradation. Science is also central for monitoring and evaluating progress towards combating desertification and restoring degraded land. To have a tangible impact and transition towards more sustainable land management, research must be translated into clear and practical policy recommendations and technical guidance for action. In the UNCCD, the Science Policy Interface has since 2011 provided scientific direction. We appreciate SPI's cooperation with other scientific panels and bodies, but also want to underline that the SPI should make maximum use of synergies and collaborations with other technical partners to avoid duplication. Ladies and gentlemen, we may say that the UNCCD is still quite an unknown convention for the larger public. We support the efforts of the Secretariat to raise awareness of this convention.
Welcome back to the studios. That was a live telecast of the COP14 Convention of the United Nations to tackle desertification, currently underway in New Delhi. And with that, we wind up this edition of the news. News and updates continue on DD News and DD India. Stay tuned. Namaskar. Well, you were watching that live telecast there, the COP14 Convention to tackle desertification, one of the most significant events of our times, dealing with one of the most prominent issues in tackling climate change, in preserving the environment, promoting sustainable living. Various countries of the world discussing issues related to progress in preserving agricultural land, more sustainable means of farming and so on. Well, you were also listening to Union Minister for Environment and Forests. He was chairing the convention. Well, that's all we have for you in this edition of the news. Namaskar.
welcome to CinemaScope, your one-stop destination for every news and update from the world of cinema. I'm your host Jyotika. We will bring you right from filmy gossip to new releases